Here's the question. How do you make the impossible possible? Simple. Remove the I am, the ego. Now, how do you step into that newfound possibility? With a series of small intentional steps. Never forget, the greatest among us started from humble beginnings. But to truly unlock your potential, realize you're here for something greater. If you're yearning for more than just a good life, let's take that small step together to reach greatness. Welcome to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast, where we're talking to those who have gone from mediocrity to motivated, overlooked to overachieving, forgettable to unforgettable. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, everybody. As you probably already figured out, this is the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast. And this is wow, how do I explain it? This is kind of like my weekly therapy session where I work on some things within myself and put it out into the world, and some of the thoughts and interesting interactions I've had. This is where I put them out, and I appreciate your patience in listening to those things. And this episode, Greatness from Small Beginnings. Yes, I am at the beginning of this long process, and I am a little bit ashamed to say that at 61, almost 62 years old, I am not as far along in this process towards greatness in this area as I thought I would be, and wish I was. So that's the transparent truth. But here is the subject: identity. Then we'll get to how we get greatness out of a discussion of identity. What am I? Who am I? And what am I meant to be? And then what am I meant to do with that? All right, so here's a statement that I'm going to probably repeat a few times, at least a couple of times throughout this. By the way, most of this content came from a sermon from my pastor at church. He's new to our church, and I'm getting used to him. And so this is going to lean, like a lot of these things do. I cannot be transparent to you, and I cannot see the point behind things unless I end up talking about God and his viewpoint of things, because that's where true wisdom comes from. That's where true quality of life and fulfillment comes from, is knowing him and seeking him and pushing into what he would have for us. That's where true greatness comes from, is knowing him, knowing what he put us on this earth to do, and then knowing him and pushing deeply into that, to the point where into areas, into ways that we never knew existed. So there you go. Most of you already know that. Here's the statement: self can't search self to find the answers about self. We as humans literally cannot do that. We can't. I have several living examples near me and around me that have tried that as their growth process. And awareness is important. Self-awareness, situational awareness, those are all super important things. But by themselves, they can be what's the term? Self-aggrandizing, making yourself more in the equation than you actually are. I don't know, is that the right term, aggrandizing? But making self more important, because you just look at yourself and may be convinced that you know yourself. And what you find out is, maybe as you get feedback, maybe as you read books or listen to podcasts like this and other things, that you find out, actually, I'm not as aware of the actual facts, the actual things that really matter as I thought I was. Okay, so here's the main part of the content. So it starts with a question. I really like it. If you didn't have to find or create your own identity, would that be a good thing or not? Here's another question. Where do you look to answer the questions of, am I loved? Am I significant? Am I good enough? Am I on the right track? Like the questions continue. Am I on the way to greatness? Super good question, right? But it stems from questions, answers to the questions about am I loved, am I significant, and am I enough? And it goes back to the idea that if you didn't have to find or create your own identity, would that be a great thing? Well, a lot of people go create their identity, and we can think of many examples, which I won't get into the social political ideologies that drive many people, but there's a lot of things people identify with that create this identity, and then they uh, zealously or militantly hold to those ideals, and basically, because of that, push that onto others. So here's a statement that was made during that sermon. As you search for identity, what you truly need is more God discovery, not self discovery. Goes back to the statement. Self can't search self to find the answer about self. That would be, I know this is a little bit silly, that would be like the creator of a piece of pottery. The pottery looks and says, hey, what am I about? And they just consider, what am I about, rather than the purpose that the maker of that pottery then made. Now that's silly, because how can a piece of pottery do that? And yet you understand what I'm saying. I am a created being. I'm created by a God who has big plans for me. He did not put me on this earth to be average. He wants for me greater things, greatness, greatest things. He wants the best for me. And am I standing in the way of that? So I'll read that sentence again. As you search for identity, what you truly need is more God discovery, the creator, the one that made us, that put us here for the purposes that he put us here for. And what is that? Well, it's in alignment with our identity on who he made us to be and the things he made us to be and do. And if we knew those things, wouldn't we then lean a lot deeper into that quality filled life that I was talking about? So, whether you believe in God, Jesus, salvation, redemption, justification by faith, sanctification, all these big words, he believes in you. That I'm convinced 100% of, and I won't argue it for the sake of arguing. Would argue it in for the sake of convincing others by my own anecdotal evidence. And maybe you're one of those that can be, to some degree, convinced today. I'm a living example of how it's lived out. It's how it's lived out. So whether you believe in Jesus or God, he believes in you, and you were created in the image of God. He's saying things to you. He's actually communicating with you, perhaps through this conversation right now. And I hope with all of me, and I actually pray that there is really important listening going on. Okay. So here's 4 points that I need to dig into, and I'm not going to put them in the order that I got them out of that sermon. I'm going to put them in a little bit different order. The one practical step in regards to discovering our identity, especially related to the fact that identity was not created by us, it was created by someone else, is that first of all, we need to seek truth over emotions. Because we can feel a certain way about ourselves. We can resonate, like we can act a certain way and make us feel a certain way. We can behave certain ways that'll allow the emotions to follow. But we need to seek truth over emotions. And I think often in this world, you see just in the political realm how much truth is just not even the thing anymore. Like it's hard to even find any truth. What is the truth about any particular situation? And we struggle to figure out if there is any being said at all. Too much division. So seek truth over emotions. This one in this list got listed as fourth, which I don't disagree with, but let me say it now as number two. Number one, get to the truth. No, seek truth at number two is the way it's listed. Seek truth over emotions. And then he put number four, get over yourself. Like we have to humble ourselves and say, and go back to self can't serve self to find answers about self. That is not the way this works. You need to search outside yourself for answers about yourself, practical, and some of them tactical mindsets and thoughts, perspectives about you, about yourself. We need to get back to the truth of the character of the creator, the kind of character that would create us for greatness and put us on this earth at risk of us embarrassing him, which in some ways we as humans have, but he's risked being rejected and has many people over the years and right now rejected him and his ways. We need to get back to the truth of his character. And then the last one I will say is trust God that he created us for a glorious purpose. Those things I think go walk in tandem. If we're humble enough to trust God that he created created us for a glorious purpose, then we get back to the truth of his character. We're driven to that. We're leaned back that direction. Self can't search self to find the answer about self. I keep saying it again and again because it makes such sense. It makes such sense to you if you think about how far you've come in certain areas. It's always about challenges that have challenged your thinking. It's always about feedback that has challenged your perception about you and about other things. And then you get to decide to some degree here, where's where you come in, is that you get to, even though things are perceived a certain way through what you consider facts, you get to have a perspective then that can make you better. I get to have a perspective. No matter what my perception is of the facts, I can have the same facts, changing my perspective on it and the possibility of it being of the problems of the things I need to solve, the identity crisis I'm in, these kinds of things. My perspective on that, am I seeing as an opportunity? Am I humbling myself and seeking truth over emotions? Am I get over myself? Like stop. Dig deeper from the perspective of someone greater and bigger than me. And then get back to the truth of his character as in God, as in Jesus. Look at both, and then trust God that he has created you for a glorious purpose, which of course he has. So that's the bulk of what I want to say today. And all of it stems from self can't search self to find the answers about self. We need feedback. We need to figure it out from someone else's perspective. We need feedback, good feedback, like truthful feedback, not slanted, not frustrated from the standpoint of they're not hearing, they're not seeing me the way that they really are, and they're not telling me the truth. Find those who tell you the truth. All right, as I finish today, I'll finish as I always do. Quote, the Zig Ziglar quote, one of my favorites about you and about me. You were designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seeds of greatness. Yeah, we are. Now, we have a choice to make. Listen to this call to action statement that comes from this, and then choose accordingly. Now go be great.